Blood streaked down Special Agent Darius Cole's temple as he stood between a toppled badge and a lonely pistol, breath steady, eyes blazing. 9-year-old Amara watched from behind him, wide-eyed and shaking. 3 officers lay cuffed on the precinct floor. This reckoning was only beginning. Before we dive into this fierce tale of justice and consequence, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Smash like, hit subscribe, and join our storytelling crew. How far would you go to protect your child from a system that refuses to protect them? In Mapleton, Georgia, a mid-sized city with polished storefronts and cracked racial fault lines, lived Amara Cole, a bright black girl born deaf whose spirit refused to be quieted. Sunlight pooled across her bedroom walls, illuminating colorful drawings, ASL charts, and photographs of Amara with her parents. Cross-legged on her bed, Amara practiced signs she'd learned yesterday, fingers slicing the air with patient grace. Across town at the regional FBI field office, 43-year-old Special Agent Darius Cole sifted civil rights case files. 15 years on the job hadn't dulled his belief in accountability. Darius carried himself with the calm poise of a man who had witnessed humanity's darkest corners yet still believed in light. Commendations lined his wall alongside pictures of Amara through the years, her smile a compass. The desk phone rang. He answered to his wife, Nia, voice tight with concern. "Still good with Amara attending the festival solo today?" Nia asked, maternal worry threading her words. "She's rehearsed the plan all week." Darius tapped a pen against reports detailing excessive force against black residents. "She needs independence," he said, hiding the ache. "We've prepared her for moments like this." That afternoon, Nia packed Amara's small backpack. ASL communication cards, ID, emergency contacts. At 40, Nia had become a respected advocate for racial justice and disability rights, steeled by her daughter's daily barriers. She signed gently, reminding Amara of their safety steps and the power of her own voice. "Remember what Dad taught you," Nia signed. Amara responded fast, confident. "Walk away if uncomfortable. Find a safe adult. Use my cards." Her eyes gleamed at the idea of her first solo outing. The week prior at Roosevelt Elementary, the dual edges of prejudice had cut Amara painfully. Again. Miss Whitaker, her third-grade teacher, impatient with accommodation, stuck Amara's desk in the back corner, away from visuals she relied on. When Nia confronted her, Whitaker suggested a special school, implying Amara's needs, compounded by race, belonged somewhere else. The air soured with what went unsaid but unmistakably felt. Darius had taught Amara early what it means to be black in America, shaping hard truths into age-appropriate lessons. He balanced them with constant affirmations of her brilliance. In their backyard beneath an old oak, they role-played difficult encounters, rehearsing how to communicate clearly, persistently, and without apology. "The world won't always understand you," he signed, steady and kind, "but never let anyone make you small." Amara nodded, absorbing her father's promise like sunlight. She knew more about injustice than most would ever admit, but she also knew who she was. Self-worth was their family shield. As festival time neared, Amara faced the mirror and adjusted her favorite yellow headband against her dark curls. Independence glimmered in her reflection. Darius knelt at the door, checking her backpack one more time. "Our sign?" he asked, forming their private gesture, love braided with strength. Amara signed it back. She set off down the driveway toward the bustling community center 8 blocks away. Darius watched, pride and worry braided tight. He couldn't protect her from everything, but he could arm her with strategies and love. Mapleton's spring celebration beckoned with ribbons and music. The world beyond waited, complicated. The Mapleton Spring Festival thrummed with movement. Amara navigated vendor-lined streets, holding her cards, sizzling food, spilled laughter, bright banners. She couldn't hear the soundtrack, but she felt it in bodies and light. Moving carefully, she tried everything they'd practiced: eye contact, gestures, boundaries, and a steady personal pace. Near the pavilion, A pack of teenagers clustered. Amara brushed a tall boy in a scarlet cap. She lifted a card to apologize. Faces shifted from surprise to cruelty. The tallest snatched her card, holding it high, while friends mocked exaggerated gestures, pantomiming deafness with smirks sharper than knives. Tears pricked her eyes as she jumped for the card, signing, "Please, give it back," hands pleading air that didn't answer. Officers Carter Hale and Ryan McKee noticed the commotion. Hale, 36, 14 years on the force, 7 excessive force complaints, nudged his eager junior partner. 2 o'clock, he murmured, advancing. The teens scattered. Amara remained, reaching for her fallen card. Officer Hale's heavy boot landed inches away. "What's going on?" he demanded. Amara couldn't hear the rough bark, only the posture. She reached again, fingers trembling. Silence was mistaken for defiance. Hale's jaw tightened, misreading everything he saw. "I asked a question," Hale snapped, interpreting her quiet as challenge. Amara signed frantically. "I'm deaf. I need my card." McKee frowned, noticing the pattern of her hands. "She might be deaf," he whispered. Hale scoffed. "Or pretending. Kids fake it for special treatment." The narrative bent, dangerously. Linda Harper, owner of a nearby gift shop, marched over, voice sharp with false concern. 56 and Mapleton born, she had called police on black teens plenty of times. "Officers, I'm glad you're here." That girl was bothering customers, maybe stealing earlier. The lie landed like a stamped warrant. Hale seized Amara's arm, spinning her to face him. Panic flared. She signed faster, more urgent, everything she knew. "She's escalating," Hale warned, twisting reality. "Might be on something." McKee shifted uneasily. "Should we call someone who signs?" Hale waved him off. "No time." She needs to comply now. Spectators slowed, phones rising like a second skyline. A middle-aged black woman stepped forward. "She's a child and deaf," she insisted. "She's trying to communicate." Hale's stare iced over. "Step back, ma'am, or you'll interfere with police business." He tugged for cuffs. Amara stiffened, natural panic recast as resistance. With needless force, Hale slammed Amara to the pavement. She couldn't hear the impact, but her bones did. The crowd gasped. She reached toward her pocket for her ID, proof of her disability. "Gun!" McKee blurted, reflex overriding thought. Hale drew and fired. The blast fractured Mapleton's afternoon. Pain seared through Amara's shoulder, world tilting into sky. Blood blossomed across her yellow dress. Hale stood over her, gun still trained. McKee froze, horror dawning. Phones caught it all. The escalation, the lies, the shot fired at an unarmed 9-year-old deaf black girl whose hands only asked mercy. As Amara's consciousness dimmed, she tried their private sign, love and strength, fingers trembling, falling. Back at the FBI office, Darius sifted witness statements when his phone vibrated. Unknown caller, Mapleton area code. "Mr. Cole," a breathless stranger said, "your daughter's been shot by police at the festival. She's en route to St. Mercy." The words landed like body blows. Shot by police. "Is she alive?" he rasped. "Yes, but it's bad." The line died. Darius moved on autopilot, pocketing badge and keys. He told no one the details. Family emergency would do. His title could wait, weaponized only when it mattered most. The drive normally took 20 minutes. Training shortened it. Traffic laws blurred beneath a controlled, relentless skill. His knuckles whitened, mind racing through scenarios. He'd drilled safety and disclosure with Amara again and again. Had panic erased practice, or had power refused to care? Rage cooled into strategy. St. Mercy's fluorescent corridors narrowed around him. He found Nia crumpled in a waiting room chair, eyes swollen, hands shaking. "Where is she?" His voice sounded like someone else's. "Surgery," Nia said, breath tripping. Shoulder wound, bullet fragmented. They're trying to remove pieces near her spine. Clinical words meant devastation. A police uniform appeared. Chief Walter Grayson, posture rehearsed, expression grave. 54, weathered and commanding. Darius clocked every detail. Straight-backed authority, sympathy that never reached his eyes, his right hand tapping off his body camera. "This incident is deeply unfortunate," Grayson began. "Officers placed on administrative leave pending investigation." "Unfortunate?" Nia's voice rose. "Your officers shot my 9-year-old daughter, who can't hear." Grayson stiffened. "Ma'am, the situation was complex. Our officers responded to a disturbance. There was a misunderstanding when your daughter didn't comply with verbal commands." Darius stepped closer, deliberately taller, presenting only as a father. "A misunderstanding," he said low. "She's deaf. She couldn't comply with words she couldn't hear." He didn't flash FBI yet. "I want the officers' names and body cam footage." Now Grayson blinked. "Officers Carter Hale and Ryan McKee. As for footage, technical malfunction. Both cameras failed. We're looking into it. 2 cameras failing simultaneously." The lie flashed red. A surgeon in blood-speckled scrubs approached. "I'm Dr. Javier Morales, trauma lead. She's stable. Most fragments removed. Some shards near the spinal cord are too risky. Significant blood loss, nerve and muscle damage in the right shoulder. She'll need intensive therapy." "Permanent damage?" Darius asked. Morales weighed truth. "Too soon to know. Her age helps, but psychological trauma will be significant." Over the surgeon's shoulder, Darius noticed a black woman officer lingering, troubled eyes flitting toward Grayson. Her badge read, "Sergeant Pierce." Their eyes met. She looked away. Quickly. By late afternoon, the hospital became crisis ground zero. News and social feeds lit up. Neighbors gathered outside with cardboard signs and fierce chants. Inside, Darius sat at Amara's bedside in pediatric ICU, tracking the gentle rise of her chest. Wires hummed, machines beeped. The world pretended familiarity. Nia stepped out to brief family. Darius's phone chimed, a clip already trending. He watched Hale confront Amara, watched the shove to pavement, watched the shot. The phone trembled in his grip. "How do you respond when you watch your child brutalized by those sworn to protect?" the clip asked. "If officers should be arrested immediately, comment 1. If Darius should use his FBI role right now, comment 2. Like and subscribe to follow this father's fight." The hospital TV showed a press conference. Grayson polished the phrase, "officer-involved shooting," reality laundered through passive language and endless euphemism. Outside, protesters swelled. "Justice for Amara. Deaf lives matter." The hospital added security, citing safety, forming another barrier. In a stairwell, Darius called Director Samuel Vance, his FBI supervisor. "We need to move," Darius said, voice taut. "I can't wait on justice approval while evidence evaporates and narratives calcify." Vance exhaled. "Clear civil rights violation, but official authorization takes time." Darius didn't flinch. "I don't have time." Silence stretched, then. "Off the books," Vance said. "No bureau resources, no official capacity. You're on family leave. Bring me something solid enough to move upstairs." Darius already had a plan. Back in Amara's room, a nurse checked vitals. "A reporter's here to speak with you," she said. Security sent her away, but she left a card. Investigative reporter Tasha Monroe, Mapleton Chronicle. On the back a note, "I don't buy their story. Call me." Darius slid it into his pocket. Officers paraded through, feigning concern, sniffing for intel. Most retreated after meeting Darius's stare. Sergeant Alana Pierce lingered. "Mr. Cole," she said quietly, "not everyone supports what happened." She scanned the hall. "I'm troubled by inconsistencies in the official report." Darius lifted a brow. "Like synchronized body cam malfunctions?" Pierce's eyes widened. "Among other things, Hale escalates, especially with black residents. Complaints vanish. Internal affairs buries them." She glanced at Amara, compassion warring with caution. "This shouldn't happen to any child." She left, but the fracture line glowed. Corruption wasn't airtight. Pressure might widen the crack to daylight. Storm clouds gathered over Mapleton and on cable crawls. The police union declared Hale and McKee heroes who made split-second decisions. Linda Harper appeared on screen, rehearsed certainty oozing. She was acting erratic, wouldn't stop when told. Nia's coffee cup shattered against the wall, dark stains spidering like fury. "They're painting our baby as the criminal," Nia cried, grief and rage tangled. Darius held her, already mapping strategy while offering comfort. "They don't know who we are," he said quietly. "This isn't over." Pastor Leonard Price, 64 and battle-tested from decades of civil rights trenches, arrived with steady presence. "The first 48 hours are critical," Pastor Price warned in hushed hallway tones. "They expect outrage to fade. They flood the field with their version and wait. Don't let them run the clock." Darius nodded. "I know the playbook. I've investigated enough of these. They don't expect me." "Whatever the community can do, say the word," Price said. "Prayer vigil tonight. We're ready for nonviolent pressure, too." Back in the room, Amara woke, eyes shiny with confusion. Darius signed "Dad here" and "Safe now," but her gaze drifted away. Her hands stayed still. Fear shut down the bridge. The trauma team had warned them selective mutism could follow severe trauma, even in signed communication. Watching Amara's silence swallow the language that had always freed her gutted Darius in ways training never prepared him for. As sedation tugged her back under, Nia wiped tears and straightened with new resolve. "I'm joining the protest tomorrow," Nia said, steadier now. "Our people need to see us fighting, not only grieving. Amara needs to see it too." Darius didn't argue. They'd opened two fronts, Nia building public pressure, Darius working in the shadows, assembling evidence brick by undeniable brick. Lightning flashed. Outside the hospital, umbrellas bobbed over persistent protesters refusing to go home. Darius made a vow, quiet, lethal. The officers who harmed Amara and the systems sheltering them would face the kind of scrutiny they could neither predict nor withstand. A father's love had become a scalpel. Fluorescents buzzed at Mapleton Police Headquarters as Darius strode in, FBI credentials showing for the first time. The desk sergeant went pale. "I'll notify Chief Grayson," he stammered. Darius leaned in, pleasant voice, steel edge, "Not necessary. Preliminary review for a potential federal civil rights case. We'll interview the chief later." The phrasing suggested official muscle without stating it. Doors opened. In records, he combed decades of reports and internal investigations. First, the personnel files, Hale and McKee. Hale's folder groaned with 7 excessive force complaints over 14 years, nearly all black victims, each dismissed after perfunctory reviews. Patterns emerged like bruises. Hale's transfer history raised eyebrows. He'd left Atlanta PD just before disciplinary action for excessive force, an exit dressed as resignation. McKee's file was cleaner. 2 years on the job, no formal complaints, only performance reviews praising his willingness to learn from seasoned partners. Darius read between those careful lines. A young cop being molded by a bad one. Digging deeper, Darius charted Chief Grayson's habit of shielding misconduct, especially when black residents complained. Unfounded, stamped everything. Witnesses intimidated, statements discredited, serial offenders promoted upward. One case knotted his stomach. A black teen with autism brutalized during a wellness check. The family filed a complaint, threatened suit, then withdrew after a private meeting with Grayson. Settlement sealed, officers commended for resolving volatility. As Darius photographed documents, a soft knock. Sergeant Pierce slipped inside, shutting the door. "You're not just Amara's father," she murmured. He considered, then nodded once. "FBI civil rights," he said, "unofficially for now." Pierce didn't flinch. "Figured from how you handled Grayson." She produced a flash drive. Hale and McKee's texts, 6 months. She was on internal tech support and had cloned them before accidental deletion. Darius accepted it, careful not to ask about admissibility. "Why help me?" he asked. Pierce's expression hardened. "I joined to protect my community, not terrorize it. Hale's been a problem for years, but my warnings don't travel far when I'm a black woman in this department. If you want more, go to Miller's Diner, back booth 11. Order meatloaf." She slipped out, back at a motel under a false name. Darius opened the drive. The messages were vile. Hale dropped racial slurs casually, called Mapleton's East Side the zoo, and mocked Amara after the shooting. Not so mouthy with a hole in her shoulder. Maybe now she hears me. LOL McKee's replies rarely used slurs, but signaled complicity. Laughing emojis. Gotta keep 'em in line. Thumbs ups to bullying. The thread dripped with bias. Evidence of racial animus crucial for a civil rights case. Darius unearthed another link. Linda Harper's brother was Captain Victor Harper, head of internal affairs and Grayson confidant. At 11, Darius sat in the back booth at Miller's, meatloaf cooling. A nervous man in his 50s slid in opposite. "Captain Peter Donnelly, Internal Affairs," he said softly. "Pierce says your bureau." Darius didn't answer. Donnelly pressed on. "I've watched Grayson turn the department into his fiefdom." "Any IA probe into Hale got kneecapped," Donnelly whispered, fingers worrying a napkin. "3 times I tried. 3 times Grayson killed it before witness interviews." "Why talk now?" Darius asked. Donnelly's laugh was bitter. "Because a deaf kid got shot, and the wagon circle continues. Be careful. Grayson has friends everywhere." "Mayor, DA, a couple judges," Donnelly continued. "They call themselves the Round Table. Poker Thursdays." The town answers to Grayson Donnelly stiffened suddenly. "Don't turn around." Hale just walked in, with 2 others. "I've got to go before they spot us." He left money for coffee he never drank and vanished. Darius finished slowly, back to the wall. Feeling Hale's presence like static, he paid and left. A patrol car shadowed him through a tangle of turns. Tail confirmed. His phone buzzed. "Sergeant Pierce. Don't react. The body cam footage isn't corrupted. It exists. Grayson ordered tech to mark it unrecoverable." "Where is it?" Darius asked. "Secure server. Alpha-level accounts only. Grayson. Captain Harper. IT head," Pierce said. "Military-grade encryption, but there's an automatic cloud backup every 72 hours. Next one is tomorrow at 3 a.m. During transfer, security loosens briefly. That window is your best shot." Darius filed every detail. He thanked her and made a mental note. Pierce deserved recruitment to any department that actually served and protected. Back at a motel under a false name, Darius organized evidence tiles across a corkboard. A block number rang. A voice run through a modulator slithered out. "Agent Cole, this is your only warning. Stop digging, or your daughter's hospital room will look like a playground accident," the voice hissed. "We know where your wife sleeps. We know which room your kid is in." The line severed. Darius sat a beat, ice replacing blood. Progress had a scent, and predators had caught it. He called Nia, instructing her to bring Amara's parents to the hospital to stay put with their undercover security consultants. Then he called Vance. "I need protection on my family quietly." 2 agents in an hour. Hospital security cover, Vance said. "You keep building. But be careful. Cornered animals bite midnight," ticked closer. Darius cleaned his service weapon piece by piece, ritual steadying the storm inside. The threat had sharpened his focus. Mapleton PD had shot a federal agent's child and then threatened his home. They had awakened the most dangerous commitment on earth, a father's unbreakable promise. Rain rattled the hospital windows 5 days after the shooting. Amara watched an animated show play silently. Her shoulder hurt less. Her spirit remained hollowed. Nia brushed her hair carefully around bandages, while Darius watched a patrol car, parked strategically, across the street. Surveillance, now a blunt instrument of intimidation. "She still won't sign," Nia whispered, setting down the brush. "Not a word." Darius knelt, forming familiar shapes. Pain? Water? Want anything? Amara's eyes tracked his hands, but hers stayed still. a fortress protecting a wounded city inside. The psychologist called it selective mutism. Trauma had barricaded her voice. Dr. Maya Chen, a specialist in trauma therapy for deaf children, arrived from Atlanta at Darius's insistence. "Recovery isn't linear," she said after evaluation. "Her body will heal faster than her trust." The enforcers of safety hurt her. Rebuilding faith will take time, patience, and sturdy love that never wavers. With Nia guarded at the hospital, Darius split days and nights, half beside Amara's bed, half sifting through data. The motel became a war room. Timelines, pattern maps, complaint heat maps. Numbers told a truth the department denied. Mapleton officers used force against black residents at 5 times the rate. Complaints by black residents were dismissed at triple the rate of white complainants. Worse, 5 prior excessive force incidents involved black residents with disabilities, pepper spraying a man with cerebral palsy during a traffic stop, tasing a deaf woman who didn't respond to shouted commands. No discipline followed. Commendations sometimes did. A text pinged from an unknown number. "River Heron Park, East Bench. 20 minutes. Come alone. Important." The phrasing matched McKee's texting style. Clipped, anxious. It could be a setup. It could be salvation. Darius triangulated routes, ditched the obvious tail, and arrived minute 19, senses sharpened, shoulders loose. Officer Ryan McKee sat on the bench out of uniform, jittery, hands twisting. He jumped when Darius appeared. "Don't do that," he gasped, reaching instinctively for a holster that wasn't there. "Didn't hear you." "Neither did my daughter," Darius said, flat. "Before you and Hale shot her." McKee flinched, shame raw. "It wasn't supposed to happen," McKee blurted. "Hale lied. Grayson ordered us to stick to his version. He made me alter my incident report. Darius watched him like a bomb tech." "Why now?" McKee stared at his hands. "I can't sleep. I see her face when the bullet hits." "I joined to help people," McKee said, voice small. "Not shoot kids and cover it up. Hale's gotten away with things for years. Grayson always protects him. I should have stopped him when he threw her down." "I was afraid." "The body cam?" Darius asked. The air held its breath. "It exists," McKee said. "Grayson had tech corrupt the files in the official system, but he keeps clean copies. Insurance. The footage shows Hale escalating and firing without justification. He uses racial slurs before and after. Grayson knows exactly what's in there." Darius felt anger harden into something surgical. "Who else knows?" Darius asked. "Grayson, Captain Harper, maybe the IT head. They use the files to keep everyone loyal," McKee said. "Step out of line, and suddenly your worst moments leak." The implications fanned out. Blackmail leverage, masquerading as internal security. Systemic rot, documented and hoarded like currency. "I need that footage," Darius said. McKee swallowed. "I don't have access." He hesitated. "Judge Everett Turner signed a warrant to search your daughter's belongings after the shooting. 0 probable cause. He and Grayson play poker Thursdays with the mayor and DA. They call themselves the Round Table." The news dovetailed with whispers. The district attorney's office already signaling no charges for Hale or McKee. Actions justified under policy. The rot spread past precinct walls, threading courthouse and city hall. Before they parted, McKee fidgeted like he had one more confession balanced dangerously on his tongue. Back at the motel, Darius updated the board, connecting names and nights. Round Table Radius, Mayor Danson, DA Mallory, Judge Turner, Chief Grayson, Captain Harper. Each thread ran through Hale's incident and outward to older wounds the city had learned to ignore. Darius circled 3 a.m. backup window. He mapped network architecture from stolen diagrams, guessed the posture of the secure server, and drafted contingencies. Meanwhile, Vance's undercover agents reported no anomalies at the hospital, just the patrol car watching like a billboard promising reprisal. Darius texted Pierce. "Window confirmed?" Her reply arrived quick. "Yes." "I'll distract IT." He breathed once, deep. He would need a failsafe, off-site redundancy. He shredded motel receipts, switched rooms, burned a dummy route for the persistent tale, then slipped back to Saint. Mercy after midnight to sit beside Amara. Machines pulsed. Nia slept fitfully. Darius watched his daughter's quiet, stubborn breathing. He signed to her gently, even knowing she might not answer. I'm here. I'm not leaving. We'll rebuild, brick by brick. I promise. Her eyelids fluttered, then stilled. Outside, the storm eased to a whisper. Inside, time held. At 2:23 a.m., Darius left, shadows fitting him perfectly. Mapleton PD headquarters dozed, but never slept. He parked 2 blocks away, blended with the rain-washed dark, and entered through a side door Pierce had flagged as temperamental. Downstairs, he ghosted along cinder-block corridors and old bulletin boards listing community outreach dates like absolution. The server room's glow beckoned. He slipped inside during the backup window, the air cold and humming. Pierce's decoy process kept the IT console occupied elsewhere. Darius jacked into an auxiliary port, authenticated with a borrowed credential chain he'd stitched from Pierce's breadcrumbs, and hunted. A directory surfaced. Insurance. Encrypted blocks nested like secrets. He launched a parallel decrypt with a dictionary keyed to Mapleton touchstones. Progress crawled, then jumped. Hail McKee Festival _Amara, time-stamped. He exfiltrated to an encrypted drive, mirrored to a hidden partition, and pushed a burst upload to an off-grid node Vance had once shown him in another life. Redundancy saved cases. Footsteps. 2 voices outside the door. Darius killed the console hang, shifted a cabinet half an inch, and let the door swing open naturally. A janitor's cart rattled by. Someone joked about overtime. The door closed again. The transfer ticked toward completion. He swallowed air, steadying a rushing heartbeat. Done. He pulled the line, wiped traces, and slid out as a printer down the hall sputtered to life. A noisy alibi. In the stairwell, he passed an officer carrying a peach cobbler tin. Midnight snack, the officer grinned. Darius nodded like any man searching for late coffee, then vanished. In the car, he popped the encrypted drive into a covert slot and checked the mirror. No tail. He breathed for the first time in 20 minutes. Back in the motel, he secured the evidence in triplicate, then sat on the edge of the bed until sunrise, palms open, trembling. At 8 a.m., he watched the footage. It was worse than he'd prepared for. Hale's slurs bled through the speakers, acid cold. The escalation was unambiguous. The shot, unjustified, and merciless. McKee's panic read as human. Complicity still burned. The video's truth could cut through manufactured fog like noon sun. He clipped relevant segments, created a sworn declaration draft, and began a memo to Vance with a chain of custody appendix. He tagged every frame that mattered, the card snatched, the shove, Amara's signing, the false gun, the muzzle flash. He prepared community versions and sealed originals for federal review. Nia called, voice steady with fire. The vigil turned into a march. People are ready, Darius told her he had something real. We move carefully, he said. Our aim is justice, not spectacle. We'll need credible messengers, airtight facts, and a community ready to hold the line, Nia agreed. He looped in Tasha Monroe under embargo, offering only context. Footage exists. You'll see it when it's safe. She promised patience. Pastor Price organized legal observers. Sergeant Pierce texted, Rumor is IT noticed anomalies, but can't pin them. Darius smiled grimly. Good. We'll be first to the truth. By noon, Mapleton officials held another press conference. Grayson doubled down. Tragic, complex incident, reasonable perceived threat. The Union flanked him, arms crossed. Darius watched from the hospital, Amara asleep, Nia squeezing his hand. He felt the gears turning. When truth hits marble, it chips, then fractures, then avalanches. That evening, activists held a town hall outside St. Mercy. Nia spoke. My daughter signed for help and got a bullet. The crowd murmured prayers and promises. Pastor Price reminded everyone, we aim our pain. Legal volunteers took statements. Tasha gathered corroboration, careful not to endanger sources inside the department. Darius met Pierce in a quiet hospital corridor. "It worked," he said. Relief flickered across her face, then faded. "Brace yourself," she warned. "Grayson's reading the room. He'll try to preempt your move, maybe suspend Hale to cool the streets while burying the rest. He'll bet on fatigue." "Then we don't fatigue," Darius said. "We proceed steady, verified, public." He texted Vance, "Package inbound. Unofficial chain of custody logs attached. Recommend immediate escalation to Civil Rights Division and Public Integrity." Vance answered, "Move." "I'll brief upstairs. Prepare for coordinated release with DOJ presence. The cavalry might finally saddle up." Darius stood over Amara's bed again. Machines whispered. He signed gently. "You did everything right. This wasn't your fault." Her eyes opened halfway, following him. Her fingers twitched, almost their sign, then stilled. "I'll carry the rest," he promised softly. "You heal." "I'll fight." The room held his vow carefully. Across town, Linda Harper, prepped for another interview, lies polished, story firm. Inside City Hall, the round table adjusted schedules, phones buzzing. Captain Harper texted Grayson, "We have pliable judges. DA is aligned. Delay hearings. Starve discovery." Darius added those names to a widening diagram. Rott prefers shadows. He visited Roosevelt Elementary. Miss Whitaker met him with defensive cordiality. He calmly documented Amara's placement and lack of accommodation. Her statements, dismissive, coded, joined the stack illustrating a town's habit of labeling difference as defiance. Systems don't fail by accident. They're engineered, funded, and rewarded for predictability. Back at the motel, he correlated watch schedules with complaint spikes, building a heat map that glowed red where Hale patrolled. He matched internal emails to patrol zones and street cameras. A picture sharpened, complaints rose where Hale led. Interventions dropped when Pierce supervised. Leadership choices wrote outcomes in bruises. He prepped affidavits for Pierce and Donnelly, anonymized initial drafts for safety. He organized witness clips with synchronized timestamps, the shove, the shout, the shot. Each piece snapped perfectly into the next. Truth wasn't only persuasive, it was surgical. It cut dead tissue away, so healing could begin. Pierce texted, "Internal memo says body cam corruption to be announced tomorrow." Darius replied, "We'll preempt with DOJ." Vance messaged, "Senior counsel looped. Prepare remote briefing tonight." Darius stared at Amara's photo on his phone, tiny fingers forming their sign. He remembered the backyard oak and her steady eyes. That night, he delivered a secure virtual briefing to DOJ attorneys. He walked them through the footage, the text threads dripping with bias, the round table's private obedience, the pattern evidence, and the tampered chain inside Mapleton PD. He named credible insiders, emphasized Pierce's integrity, and proposed immediate interventions. "We'll need protective measures for witnesses," DOJ said, "and immediate preservation orders." Vance added, "We have enough to justify a federal civil rights probe and obstruction inquiry." They set timelines. Darius exhaled quietly, knowing the next hours would be choreography, truth revealed cleanly, safety buffered, community centered. After the call, he sat in the dark, listening to rain tick the motel window. He thought about the voice on the phone, threats masked in static. Fear visited, resolve stayed. He texted Nia, "Progress." She replied with a heart and a lightning emoji. Love and strength, their language translated. Morning brought headlines guessing at outcomes. The union promised full support for Hale and McKee. The mayor urged patience. Darius contacted Tasha. "Prepare for a joint release with DOJ. You'll have time-stamped clips, corroborated testimony, and pattern analysis. We do this once clean for Amara and others at St. Mercy." Dr. Morales reviewed Amara's charts. "Infection risks are easing," he said. "Physical therapy timeline is long but hopeful. The shoulder's function depends on nerve recovery and time." Darius nodded. grateful for incremental wins. Healing, like justice, rarely arrived in one spectacular cinematic moment. The patrol car across the street disappeared for the first time in days, replaced by an unmarked sedan. Subtlety was the new threat. Vance's undercover duo rotated shifts, fists tucked into consultant jackets. Darius thanked them quietly. They nodded, understanding the unspoken contract. Protect this room at all costs. Pastor Price brought lunch and a quiet blessing. We speak truth with courage, he told Nia and Darius. We refuse bitterness, but we don't surrender clarity. He quoted a familiar line, justice is what love looks like in public. Nia smiled through tears. Our daughter deserves that love. Darius texted McKee a single line. Your confession matters. Keep breathing. McKee replied, I'll testify. Pierce pinged. Murmurs suggest Grayson suspects a leak. He's tightening circles, Darius wrote. Hold steady. Backup arrives soon. He sent Vance another packet. School records, prior incidents, population level disparities, all footnoted. Late afternoon, the community marched again, slower, stronger. Drums pulsed. Silence fell as Nia held up Amara's ASL cards like prayer flags. Teens signed a chant they'd learned overnight. We see you. Darius walked the perimeter, blending into shadows, counting choke points, timing response. Old training met new purpose. Inside City Hall, the round table met early. The agenda leaked to Tasha. Delay civil review, reinforce tragic split-second narrative, highlight shoplifting rumors. Tasha verified, then filed the leak away until release. Journalists sometimes hold fire. It isn't weakness, it's accuracy's armor. Darius appreciated her discipline. At dusk, Amara stirred. Darius signed love. Her fingers moved a fraction, then stopped. He didn't push. Healing had its own calendar. He sat and told her stories of brave trees, surviving storms, and quiet rivers carving stone. She watched him, safe in the soundless harbor they'd built. DOJ scheduled a morning announcement, a federal civil rights investigation into Mapleton Police Department and related officials, including potential obstruction and conspiracy charges. Vance texted, Our presence will be public. Get your materials to the field office tonight. Darius copied the last set of mirrors and sealed the drive. He met Vance's courier at a safe drop and returned to the hospital, pausing outside to watch candles flicker. People hummed songs Amara couldn't hear but might someday feel differently. The vigil's warmth climbed his ribs like courage. Grief gathered and transformed itself into a shared, stubborn promise. Back upstairs, a new nurse, alert, kind, adjusted Amara's IV. Darius thanked her. He washed his hands, sat and let silence settle. Pain and purpose can coexist without canceling each other. He rested his palm against Amara's uninjured arm and felt her pulse, steady as a drumline in rain. His phone buzzed. Tasha, ready when you are. Donnelly. IA will not protect Grayson. Pierce. I can place a preservation hold at 7:59 a.m. If they balk, you'll see why. Darius responded with precise instructions. Coordination hummed across phones and hearts. Justice and logistics marched in single file, inevitable as sunrise. Another text. McKee. Hale suspects me. He's angry, Darius replied. Don't meet him alone. Document everything. We'll handle contact, he flagged McKee for protection. Vance agreed, dispatching quiet watchers. Darius looked at Nia, who sat tracing circles on a paper cup. Tomorrow, she whispered. He nodded. Tomorrow. Morning's first light edged hospital blinds. Darius stood stretched. He signed to Amara. We move today. She blinked twice, as if hearing the world in the way she always had, through the soft fidelity of presence. He smiled. Outside, a siren wailed far away, not as threat as warning. At 7:59 a.m., Pierce initiated the preservation hold. IT balked. She escalated to policy, then to law. Interference with a federal investigation, she said evenly. Logs sealed. At 8:30, DOJ announced the probe. Microphones clipped, cameras rolled. Vance stood beside senior counsel, words spare and disciplined, stakes unmistakable. Darius watched the press conference by Amara's bed. He didn't exhale. He'd seen systems absorb scandal and keep moving. Don't look for applause, he told himself. Look for leverage. He texted Tasha, release package in 15. He texted Pastor Price, gather community at noon. He texted Nia, ready? Tasha published, threading video and affidavits, timelines and analysis, each piece linked, sourced, unmistakable. The footage spilled into feeds, unvarnished. Hale's slur curdled on speakers, the shove, the flinch, the unjustified shot. Silence landed like thunder. Mapleton's story changed shape in real time. Truth bent the arc harder. Grayson tried to preempt paid leave for Hale, administrative reassignment for McKee. The mayor echoed. The DA hedged. But the video didn't care. It required no translation. In the hospital, Amara dozed. Nia squeezed Darius's hand. You did it, she whispered. He shook his head. We started it. Phones exploded. Donnelly texted, officers requesting interviews. Pierce, line outside. IA office. Vance, grand jury prep begins. Pastor Price, the square is full. Darius exhaled once, then twice. The next steps would be messy. Indictments, depositions, a courtroom lit bright enough to chase shadows back under the stones. He leaned close to Amara and signed slowly, love and strength. Her eyes fluttered open. Her fingers rose, trembling, determined, and met his sign halfway. She didn't hold it long. She didn't need to. The bridge was still there. Nia covered their hands. 3 pulses, 1 promise, steadying everything. Across town, the round table met in panicked whispers, poker chips quiet. Evidence did not bluff. Grayson stared at a future with fewer exits. In the hospital, Darius rested his forehead against the glass, rain returning in soft applause. The reckoning hadn't ended. It had finally, fully begun. Officer Carter Hale and shopkeeper Linda Harper prepared fresh statements, claiming they saw Amara lift items from Harper's boutique before the clash. They hoped to frame a pattern to excuse brutality. Darius kept his face cool, though fury hammered inside his ribcage. At dawn, the county prosecutor declined charges against Hale or Ryan McKee, citing insufficient evidence of criminal intent, despite dozens of eyewitnesses and partial videos undermining the department's story. The decision landed like a gavel on a fracture, widening it, daring Mapleton's people to accept silence again. Protesters surged across Mapleton. Nia, bullhorn in hand and moral authority in her spine, climbed City Hall steps. My daughter cannot speak for herself today, she said, voice steady. A system that silenced her with a bullet won't silence us with lies. The crowd roared, fists raised. Demonstrations swelled as national outlets aired the story, eroding the comfortable hush local power relied upon. While Nia rallied the square, Darius tunneled beneath headlines. His deep dive into Chief Walter Grayson's past surfaced earlier posts marked by mirroring misconduct, a familiar choreography of force, denials, and vanished complaints. Money told a worse truth. Darius traced holdings linking Grayson and Judge Everett Turner to a private lockup conglomerate, Southeastern Detention Partners. Quotas fattened returns, arrests, especially low-level, disproportionately black, fed contracts, fed bonuses, fed campaigns. The municipal machine profited whether Mapleton bled or merely bruised. The conflict of interest wasn't merely ugly, it flirted with criminal. As Darius aligned names, dates, and payouts, the story's spine stiffened. Patterns hardened into proof. He packaged financial threads alongside internal memos, sketching a web where public safety, disguised throughput goals, and bodies became ledger entries. Investigative reporter Tasha Monroe detonated a front-page expose in the Mapleton Chronicle. Experts condemned the shooting as unjustified. Witnesses contradicted official summaries. Both body cams' simultaneous malfunction drew skeptical analysis. Names and patterns appeared in black and white. Within hours, State legislators demanded an independent review beyond Mapleton's reach. Grayson answered with a rushed press conference. He backed Hale and McKee, scolded the paper for reckless reporting, and framed criticism as danger to men and women in blue. But his calibrated indignation felt thin. Microphones captured defensiveness. Cameras caught sweat. The narrative's veneer began to blister. Pressure mounted. Cracks showed in the blue wall's masonry. Quiet glances, stiff back channels, clipped replies. Rumors fluttered through corridors like loose invoices, transfers pending, phones examined, servers touched. Beneath Mapleton's official calm, panic paced in sharpened teeth. Darius recognized the scent. Cornered power reeks like fear. His encrypted phone rang. Director Samuel Vance. "We've got a leak!" "Someone at Justice flagged our interest. Your credentials are temporarily suspended, pending review for allegedly using Bureau resources personally." Darius stared at the motel's mapped wall, already measuring shifts. The move was bold, clumsy, expected. "How long until it's formal?" Darius asked. 48 hours, maybe less, Vance said. "Political heat's real. If suspension lands, anything you touch risks exclusion. Fruit of the poison tree." Darius swallowed the warning like steel. He'd seen trees bear stranger fruit. This time, truth would be harvested anyway. He hung up and studied the evidence mosaic. The system was defending itself by maiming his standing. It was a clever pivot. Limit the messenger, muzzle the message. He felt rage sharpen into method. Power prefers rules when it writes them. He would rewrite the choreography. On-screen narration asked viewers, what would you do when the shelter becomes the storm? Would you obey rules while kings cheat? Comment 1 if Darius should go fully off books. Comment 2 if he should wait for institutions, like subscribe, stay close. The clock wasn't ticking, it pounded. The suspension hit like a baton to the ribs and clarified everything. Stripped of protocols, Darius stepped into a different lane. Justice no longer wore his badge, it wore his promise. If the process closed doors, a father's oath would pick locks the process ignored. He laid the badge, creds, and service pistol in a neat row, replaced them with burner phones, a long-lens camera, and a notebook teeming with dates and names. Tools shifted. Mission didn't. Outside, rain stitched the parking lot. Inside, he stitched threads others preferred unraveling. Doctors moved Amara home. Familiar walls could cradle the physical repair. Quieter work would chase deeper shadows. Dr. Maya Chen visited daily, coaxing safety back into a shaken mind. Nia structured routines like scaffolding. Darius split hours between bedside silence and motel room war room geometry. Dr. Chen explained dissociative withdrawal, a protective shutdown that sometimes decouples communication from safety, but hopeful signs emerged. Amara drew, color first, then shapes. Pictures can cross bridges words can't. Dr. Chen said art often opens the door therapy, later walks through, hand in hand, unafraid. One drawing gutted them, Hale towering over a tiny figure, pistol angled down, pavement wide as ocean. The stick figure's hands hovered mid-sign, frozen. Underneath, Amara scribbled a fierce sun. Darius stared a long time, then tucked the page away, like a sworn affidavit. "Encourage her art, Doctor," Chen urged. "It's narrative reclaimed." While Nia fronted strategy rallies and press hits, Darius ghosted alleys and archives. They wove a two-strand rope, public pressure tugging daylight in, clandestine collection knotting truth together, tighter, stronger, harder to cut with excuses. Darius's first off-books move, build dossiers on 5 prior Mapleton incidents involving Black disabled residents. He scraped news clippings, public filings, church basements, and guarded living rooms. Faces emerged, voices joined. A pattern rose like bruises, misread disabilities, escalations without cause, exonerations on paper only. One story stalked his sleep. Jamar Winters, 24, cerebral palsy, pepper sprayed and beaten during a stop. Involuntary movements called resistance. Internal affairs, captained by Victor Harper, Linda's brother, closed the file approvingly. Mapleton congratulated itself. Jamar learned to reroute drives, plan groceries around patrol rotations. Darius found Jamar at a youth center, coaching kids toward dignity. Jamar described post-complaint harassment, phantom stops, slow patrols idling outside his building, small threats disguised as boredom. They wanted me quiet, he said, voice strained but exact. I stayed loud anyway, just different, safer loud. Other survivors told parallel tales. Doors rattled, tickets multiplied. Employers received courtesy calls. The message was consistent: withdraw, or we will make you smaller. Darius transcribed carefully, sealing recordings like keepsakes. Patterns weren't accidents, they were policies, unprinted but practiced, repeated until communities learned compliance. An unknown number blinked McKee. Need to meet, urgent. Same bench, midnight. Darius tagged the possibility of a trap, then weighed the tremor under McKee's text. Fear Ben's punctuation. He rerouted again, and arrived 1 minute early, rain slicking the park's lamplight into trembling halos. McKee paced, hands cold without a duty belt. They're leaning on me to change my statement, say I saw her reaching for a weapon, he said, guilt like gravel. That's not what happened. She reached for her ID. Hale lied. Grayson wants that lie tattooed official. Why help now? Darius asked. Survival? Conscience? Something else? McKee swallowed. He glanced at the empty swings, the dark water. The silence between sirens can be loud. He dug his nails into his palms and nodded at something only he could see, then finally answered. My sister's kid has Down syndrome, he said. When Hale slammed your daughter down, I saw my niece. Badges don't excuse blindness. I thought I could be a good cop. The system doesn't want good. It wants obedient. The confession rang painfully human and true. I need the original body cam, Darius said. McKee shook his head. I can't access it, but I overheard Grayson tell Captain Harper that Judge Turner issued a preservation order. Everything related must be maintained. If they destroy it now, they're not just corrupt, they're federal criminals. The phrase landed like a key in a lock. Preservation order. Destroying evidence under federal directive elevates misconduct into felony territory. It triggers louder boots, bigger lights, sharper questions. Darius felt resolve reknit. If local shadows swallowed video, federal teeth would bite, hard, publicly, permanently. The next day, Darius met federal judge Sophia Torres in chambers. He presented himself as a private citizen carrying a public wound. On the table, patterns, payoffs, complaints ghosted by internal affairs, the money's crooked path. He asked not for vengeance, but for preserved truth. This extends beyond my child, he said. Mapleton punishes difference, then protects the punishment, and they share profits. He outlined the architecture of harm. Race plus disability equals compound danger, accelerated by quotas, sanctified by stamped orders. He set the binder down like a brick. Judge Torres read, brows knit. The financial ties between Grayson, Turner, and Southeastern Detention Partners are deeply troubling, she said, and the body cam anomalies, with matching malfunctions, defy plausibility. Her pen hovered. The rule of law needed more than outrage. It needed warrants, and people strong enough to serve them. I understand that your credentials are currently suspended, she noted. Darius nodded. Politics, not proof. He didn't flinch. The documents were heavier than his badge anyway. The judge studied him, then returned to the facts. The law would move, methodical, visible, defensible, from this room outward. I'll issue warrants for original footage and department records, Torres said. Federal marshals will execute, no local involvement. Her eyes held his. This must be immaculate, Mr. Cole. Your stake is clear. Our evidence must be clearer. Darius agreed. Personal fire couldn't scorch the legal paperwork. Outside, sirens stitched through late sun. Inside the motel, Darius refined timelines and cross-referenced names. He texted Nia and Doctor, Chen updates in careful drips. He slept in armor made of lists. He woke to the same armor, only tighter. The work was heavy, exacting, right. Pressure increased from multiple fronts. Nia's organizing drew national civil rights groups to Mapleton's steps. Old veterans of battles past stood beside young marchers, finding their early voices. Microphones multiplied. Statements stopped sounding safe. The chorus refused another elegy. It wanted indictments, and after those, infrastructure. Tasha's reporting widened to capture money's echoes. The state's ethics board announced preliminary inquiries. Senators issued letters. Attorneys general requested documents. Suddenly, Mapleton's secrets had more readers than authors. Power grew shy. The blue wall didn't crumble. It sweated, then leaned, then whispered for cover. Sergeant Alana Pierce filed a whistleblower complaint with the state AG, cataloging years of discriminatory practice, doctored investigations, and retaliation. She'd kept meticulous records, anticipating the day someone outside the department might finally listen. Courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's a hard drive tucked in a flat shoe. Cornered animals get mean. Mapleton's machine still had teeth. False narratives multiplied. Friends of the department pushed Chirons about restoring order. Anonymous accounts smeared victims. Boards churned to create plausible fog. Darius recognized each tactic. He'd seen it professionally. He wouldn't let it work personally. Hale and Harper filed their defamatory addendum, alleging they'd spotted Amara attempting theft. Predictable outlets amplified it, asking if the child was no angel. A sentence structure designed to launder blame while avoiding slander law's teeth. It was despicable, and as it turned out, sloppy. A neighboring shop owner produced footage time-stamped minutes before the incident. Harper entering alone, Amara nowhere near. The lie collapsed on contact. Public trust in Mapleton's narrative fell another 10 stories. Support for the Coles rose like scaffolding. The community didn't just believe them, it was them. Grayson's movements turned furtive. Darius tagged late-night drives to a hunting cabin outside town. One car became 3. Grayson, Judge Turner, Mayor Danson. Their shadows conferred under taxidermy and bourbon. Darius documented arrivals, exits, calls afterward. Secrecy leaves footprints if you know where to look. Vance called. Justice's Civil Rights Division is circling, energized by Judge Torres's warrants. Official investigation likely, he paused. But Grayson's connections tangle upward. We need that original footage preserved beyond any argument. Secure it, and we anchor the story in something everyone must face. Resistance persisted. Friendly phone calls, padded with concerns, tried to slow the inevitable. But evidence has its own momentum once freed. Darius waited for the moment fear outran caution. It arrived sooner than expected, triggered by the quietest ally inside Mapleton's most guarded rooms. Text from Pierce. It's happening. Grayson and Captain Harper are in the evidence room with IT, wiping servers before warrants land. Darius didn't hesitate. He called Judge Torres directly. Emergency order. Immediate execution. The judge's signature moved faster than the delete key. The race was on. Within 45 minutes, federal marshals flooded Mapleton Police Headquarters, securing the evidence room and IT racks before deletion completed. Grayson and Harper were literally red-handed, metadata in motion, commands queued. The preserve order hung like a thunderhead. The blue wall's bricks were suddenly tagged, numbered, dislodging. They seized servers, pulled backups, mirrored drives, and locked chain of custody like vault doors. Grayson sputtered about jurisdiction. Nobody listened. The warrant listened louder. Darius watched the room's temperature drop. Fear has a smell, so does defeat. Both were present, distinct, unforgettable, permanent. Alongside the body cams, marshals boxed years of internal reports, complaint files, text archives, and training materials. Hidden policy surfaced, so did the appetite behind it. Everyone who'd ever written Unfounded felt those letters in their chest. Paper keeps secrets until the right hands open it. The footage wrecked the department's official narrative in less than a minute. Amara signed for help. Hale escalated. McKee panicked. "Gun!" proceeded nothing. The shot punched the afternoon. Racial epithets scorched audio before and after the muzzle flash. There was no fog left to hide in. Prosecutors labeled the evidence as evidence of hate. Civil rights attorneys read bias like a watermark. What Mapleton called split-second decision looked like a long rehearsal. Prejudice meeting power. Costume changed as protocol. The video didn't just show brutality, it showed belief, the real engine behind the trigger. Home that night, Amara slept without wincing. On her nightstand, a new drawing. Darius, standing tall, one arm stretched back, shielding a smaller figure. Overhead, their private sign was drawn like a constellation. Darius touched the page lightly, a vow renewing itself, steady, unbroken. He promised their fight would stretch beyond indictments, toward policy, training, culture, oversight, and consequence. He'd witnessed systems manufacture harm. He would help manufacture guardrails. His daughter's healing and this city's transformation weren't separate tasks. They were one work. Different skins, same heartbeat, sustained, relentless. Dawn delivered unmarked federal SUVs to Mapleton's doorstep. Special Agent Vanessa Rodriguez, 40, veteran of the Civil Rights Division, led 12 agents. Vance had provisionally restored Darius's credentials after uncovering political interference in the suspension. Rodriguez nodded once. "By the book," she murmured. "Make it bulletproof." Darius understood the balance, father and agent, personal wound and public consequence. Today the case would be built in a way no appellate court could unmake. Where he had been nimble, the machine would be meticulous. Where he had been invisible, the machine would be undeniable. The raids moved like choreography. Teams hit headquarters, Hale's apartment, Grayson's home office, Judge Turner's chambers, and Mayor Danson's suite. Surprise held. Doors opened to warrants and witnesses. Hard drives blinked, frantic, and surrendered. The city that had survived on whispers learned what volume justice prefers. At HQ, Grayson hammered keys when agents entered. He saw Darius and paled. Ego calculates probabilities. Fear calculates exits. Both failed him. He muttered something about context. Rodriguez read rights and charges. Another agent secured wrists. The chief's eyes dropped to the carpet, finally honest. "Walter Grayson," Rodriguez said, "you're under arrest for civil rights violations, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy against rights." The room held stillness like a bell. Paperwork clicked into place. Somewhere, a coffee machine, gurgled indifferently. Darius watched a door close on years of practiced immunity and easy harm. Across town, Hale tried to run. A half-packed suitcase, fresh passport, and a car pointed toward the county line wrote his confession in luggage wheels. Roadblocks waited. When agents cuffed him, his bravado cracked. "The chief said we were protected," he stammered. Protection had changed jurisdictions. Under questioning, Linda Harper folded fast. "Grayson told me what to write," she said, tears smearing mascara. "Victor, my brother, said it would help the department." Her admission matched Darius's mapped patterns, fabricated statements to paste over brutality, loyalty leveraged with family, reputation dressed as virtue. The body cams remained the fulcrum. Hale escalating, Amara signing the violent takedown, the unjustified shot, each moment time-stamped, indisputable. Official reports read like fiction beside it. Mapleton's long habit of internal review had found its limit. Cameras that once failed performed exactly when the truth needed them. Audio captured Hale's contempt after the blast, a sneering sermon about respect and troublemakers that made bias plain. Nobody needed a decoder. The law doesn't require telepathy when bigotry speaks aloud. The clip cut the last thread, holding Mapleton's defense together. Some truths don't need interpreters. In Judge Turner's chambers, agents opened a hidden safe. Inside ledgers, tracing payments from Southeastern detention partners to Turner and Grayson, indexed to arrest and conviction counts, The receipts supplied motive in the language corruption prefers. Decimal points. The system's appetite had been quantified. Its mask slipped. Sergeant Pierce emerged, key as ever. She had stored years of memos, emails, duty roster tweaks, and suppressed complaints. After they buried my first report, she told investigators, I started archiving everything. Her quiet diligence supplied detail raw outrage never could. Who? When? Where? How often? Why? McKee accepted a plea and agreed to testify. He described Hale's pattern of provocation, the department's tolerance for it, and the culture that equated cruelty with control. Each answer threaded another stitch in the government's case. Sometimes redemption doesn't erase guilt. It illuminates the map for others. Hale escalated for sport, McKee admitted. Grayson protected him, killed complaints, scared witnesses. We understood which neighborhoods were open season. The words felt heavier than their syllables, directional like a compass. He named names, shifts, incidents. The transcript bloomed with specifics, enough to anchor indictments without drift. Internal communications revealed pressure to concentrate enforcement on Mapleton's east side, with numbers tied to performance reviews. Emails lauded productivity, measured in cuffs. Supervisors learned to ask about outputs, not outcomes. The map of black neighborhoods matched the map of bruises. The quota board might as well have been a target. Data showed black complainants dismissed as unfounded at triple the rate of white complainants. White residents saw follow-ups, interviews, sometimes apologies. The disparity wasn't a glitch, it was a guideline. These weren't bad apples. This was a cider press. The department squeezed predictable results, then applauded. The ugliest text chain surfaced between Grayson and Turner, burying the civil suit, snagging a friendly docket, bragging that no jury here or flips against our guys. Their confidence sounded like scripture. It now read like evidence. Conspiracy stripped of euphemism. Idioms melted down to admissions. Darius personally loaded Grayson into a transport. My daughter couldn't hear your officer's commands because she's deaf, he said quietly. What's your excuse for never hearing our petitions? Grayson stared at the floor. Power often finds humility only when bracelets click. Outside, cameras nodded. Witnesses none could intimidate. That night, national broadcasts led with Mapleton. Raids, arrests, evidence, faces. Darius returned home to a miracle. In the living room, Amara sat with Doctor. Chen, hands hesitating, then forming basic signs. Dr. Chen smiled. She saw you hold them accountable. Safety invites language back. Amara looked up. Their private sign, love braided with strength, bloomed in her small hands. Darius knelt, mirrored it, tears unapologetic. Healing arrived, like a cautious bird, attesting the sill. He didn't move, didn't rush. Sometimes victory is quiet. Sometimes it's a single gesture returned perfectly. Days later, DOJ announced a consent decree for Mapleton PD, mandatory reforms to training, force policies, data transparency, early warning systems, and discipline. Independent monitors would report publicly. The city that silenced outcries would now publish them. Reform wouldn't be a press release. It would be a calendar. Sergeant Pierce, calm, exact, courageous, was appointed interim chief. Her mandate, rebuild trust while completing the overhaul. The badge finally returned to someone who had honored it even when it didn't honor her. The department's new future began in the hands that preserved its past's truth. The case became national shorthand for intersectional harm, race and disability, bias and bureaucracy, violence and denial. Darius, still a father first, found himself asked to speak. He accepted reluctantly, then resolutely. If his pain could prevent another family's, he'd translate it, footnote it, build something useful with it. 2 weeks later, Amara agreed to testify before a federal grand jury. In a quiet room, with an interpreter beside her, she signed her fear, confusion, the slam of pavement, the burn through her shoulder, and the long silence after. 12 strangers watched, honored, and believed. The grand jury returned indictments on all counts: civil rights violations, obstruction, conspiracy. The documents didn't heal a child, but they built a road for accountability to travel. The community exhaled, briefly, and then inhaled to continue the work. Indictments are doors, trials, reforms, and culture must walk through. Outside, Darius guided Amara past cameras, pride and anger braided tight, grief and relief wrestling calmly. He squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. The courthouse steps felt less like stone, more like a rung on a ladder. They'd keep climbing, steady, cautious, upward together. "The reckoning has begun," commentators said. But Darius understood this wasn't an ending or even the middle. Accountability is a start. Change is a marathon. He tucked an arm around Amara. Nia flanked the other side. There are formations that even storms respect. In the car, Amara signed justice, then their private gesture. Darius laughed through tears. The symbol that had traveled from backyard to ICU to courthouse now returned stronger. He whispered thanks for the people who stood with them, for the strangers who refused to look away. Chapter title cards floated across the channel. Part 10, Silent No More. Subscribers chimed in. Comments stacked, prayers, plans, policies. The story had a pulse beyond Mapleton now. It beat in living rooms, union halls, classrooms. Darius felt the rhythm and matched it, steady. 6 months after the raids, Darius watched Grayson empty his office under federal watch. The once untouchable posture sagged. Grayson glanced up. "Here to gloat?" Darius set his badge and sidearm on the desk, man to man, not agent to defendant. "I'm here to translate the bill." He slid a photo across. Amara in the hospital. Small body strung with tubing, eyes hollowed by fear. "This is the price," Darius said evenly. "Your choices wrote this." Grayson looked and flinched, gaze skittering away. "It wasn't supposed." The sentence wandered, evidence that courage had left first. "Don't blame the system," Darius said, voice low. "You were the system. Every buried complaint, every promotion for cruelty, every witness you chilled, that's you." He leaned forward. "My daughter stopped signing for weeks because she thought her hands caused violence." "That is your legacy?" Grayson tried one last bluff. "I have powerful friends." Darius placed a thick file on the wood. "This is 15 years of violations, corruption, intimidation, 57 excessive force cases, 17 victims with disabilities. Your friends are sprinting for exits outside the window. National news vans frame the truth. Mapleton had become emblem and warning. How racism and ableism entwine. How accountability can still catch up. Cameras hummed. Commentators debated consent decrees. Darius watched Grayson calculate odds and meet zero. Empires rarely fall gracefully. This one slumped. It had rehearsed impunity, not consequences. The department buzzed as agents moved through offices, interviewing, tagging, collecting. Consent decree terms hung like fresh paint: new training, early warning, co-responder programs, crisis communication. Darius saw Sergeant Pierce, now Interim Chief Washington, commanding calmly, voice measured, expectations clear. The work looked less like spectacle, more like architecture. Downstairs, agents led Grayson, Hale, and 3 others through the lobby in cuffs. Cameras clicked, the image traveled. The people Mapleton once said, "Trust us," now escorted by those they'd scorned. The crowd didn't celebrate, it witnessed. Validation isn't joy, it's relief wrapped in memory. Pastor Leonard Price told reporters, "This is step 1. True justice prevents harm tomorrow." His words echoed Darius's own shift, from single outrage to systemic redesign. You prosecute conduct, you re-engineer culture, you measure results, you tell the truth even when it costs, especially when it costs. A week later, DOJ announced a specialized initiative to investigate civil rights violations affecting disabled people in minority communities, with authority to recommend national standards. They tapped Darius to help lead it. He felt the weight and said, "Yes, you turn your wound into a lighthouse." At the press conference, Nia stood on one side, Amara on the other. "What happened to my daughter wasn't isolated," Darius said. "It grew from design and neglect. Equal protection must mean equal practice. The flashbulbs weren't applause, they were accountability's footlights." He welcomed the brightness. Off-camera, Doctor. Chen reminded them of a turning point weeks earlier, an art therapy session, where Amara drew herself upright, hands signing beams of light. "She's reclaiming voice," Chen said. "Her hands didn't cause harm. They carry power." Sometimes the revolution is a child drawing herself bigger. Amara joined a trauma support group. She arrived silent, then nodded, then shared markers, then showed another child basic signs. Her nervous system practiced feeling safe. Community is medicine disguised as presence. The room learned to applaud without noise. Healing multiplied, shy and brave simultaneously. Amara pitched an idea: teach officers ASL basics. Interim Chief Pierce and Dr. Chen backed a pilot. Uniformed volunteers gathered in a rec room. Amara taught help, understand, safe. "I'm deaf." Phones stayed pocketed. Eyes stayed kind. The room learned that hands speak and humanity listens. Photos of Amara instructing officers ricocheted online. Not a redemption arc, an accountability chapter. Reform wasn't a handshake, it was homework. The image mattered because the work behind it was real. Hours, humility, practice, policies, consequences. Mapleton wasn't cured. Mapleton was committed. National attention drew Nia onto a presidential commission on policing. On Capitol Hill, she testified, "My daughter was doubly vulnerable, black and deaf. Training must reflect the world as it is." Senators asked questions. Staffers took notes. Plans moved. The work felt like bricks, not slogans. 6 months to the day after the shooting, Mapleton gathered in the park where the festival had unraveled. Civil rights leaders, disability advocates, clergy, and newly humbled officers stood together, not to forget, to vow. The stage held flowers and a single microphone, enough for truth to travel. Amara stepped up, interpreter beside her. She scanned the crowd. Neighbors, classmates, nurses, teachers. Her hands rose, steadying. "I was scared to use my hands," the interpreter voiced. "I thought my signs caused anger." She paused. "My hands are my voice." "No one takes my voice," she kept going. "When we don't understand each other, harm happens. We can learn new ways to talk. We can listen with more than our ears." The crowd lifted hands for silent applause. 1,000 palms shimmered. The ovation looked like stars shaking themselves awake. Reforms registered. Complaints of excessive force dropped 70%. Crisis intervention training became mandatory. A co-responder unit paired clinicians with officers. An early warning dashboard flagged patterns. A civilian oversight board gained teeth, subpoena power, disciplinary authority, public reporting. The badge still carried weight. So did the clipboard. The ASL program became permanent, folded into academy training and annual refreshers. Officers learned to sign basics, then practiced with community mentors. Metrics weren't abstract. Fewer escalations with deaf citizens, more resolved calls without force. The department published numbers monthly. Mapleton learned to count people properly. Body cams were non-negotiable, always on, exceptions codified, penalties swift, audits were unannounced, footage samples were reviewed by an outside panel. Technical malfunction became a punchline, then a fossil. Mapleton's new rhythm included recording, reviewing, revising. Compliance turned into culture rather than checkbox theater. The Coles' healing continued. Amara still startled around unknown uniforms. Nightmares faded, then returned on stormy weeks, then faded again. Progress looked like a spiral, not a ladder. Darius and Nia learned to celebrate little victories. A smile at a clinic hallway, a returned joke, a finished drawing. School reopened with disability awareness modules and stronger supports for deaf students. Visual aids multiplied. Teachers learned to sign greetings, bullies learned consequences. Amara presented a short video about communication differences. Her classmates asked better questions. Understanding, it turned out, could be taught. Ignorance wasn't destiny, just habit. The federal cases moved forward. Hale and Grayson faced multiple civil rights counts with potential decades attached. Turner and others accepted pleas. Careers collapsed under sworn testimony. The spectacle wasn't Schadenfreude, it was precedent. Other cities watched. Other departments adjusted policies preemptively. Mapleton's pain taught nationally. Darius's new role sent him across the country, investigating patterns, building best practices, advising chiefs, bargaining with unions, listening to communities. He returned to Mapleton often, to hug his family, to recalibrate, to remember that statistics represent someone's child, someone's pulse, someone's future drawing itself brighter. 1 year after the shooting, Darius lingered in Amara's doorway as she rehearsed a keynote for a national conference on policing and disability rights. 9 years old, almost 10, she signed with clarity and warmth. Confidence had replaced flinches. The scar at her shoulder caught light like a thread. She wasn't telling a victim story. She was narrating a blueprint. Training saves lives. Humility prevents pain. Communication builds safety. She acknowledged fear, then punctured it with practice. Darius blinked fast. Courage looks like finishing a sentence you thought you'd never start again. His chest hurt kindly. Amara noticed him and smiled, flashing their sign. Darius returned it, letting gratitude wash through. He remembered the backyard oak, the nights in ICU, the motel's papered walls, the knocks back. Surviving is one thing. Building better afterward, together, is the point of surviving. What began as a father's desperate sprint for one child had widened to a sustained march for many. Policies hardened into habits. Habits reshaped reflexes. Reflexes prevented grief. Darius didn't romanticize the work. He respected it even more because it was unglamorous and daily. Amara had been silenced by terror. She found language again, first in pictures, then in signs, then in rooms where power finally decided to listen. Her voice reached farther than anyone guessed because it was clothed in truth and guided by hands that had once shaken. Darius thought of the community's raised hands, waving their silent applause. He thought of Pierce's archives, Monroe's headlines, Pastor Price's weary wisdom, Vance's steady cover, Judge Torres's pen, Jamar's testimony. He thought of every ordinary person doing unspectacular, necessary things. Movements are built from those. He understood justice differently now, not only as punishment, but as prevention. Structures that make cruelty harder, compassion easier, excuses rarer. A world where bad nights don't cascade into funerals, where a child's hands are always welcome, where body cams work and integrity doesn't need them. Channel outro rolled. Has this story moved you? Do you believe we can build safer systems? Drop your thoughts below. We read them. Algorithms bend toward what we feed. Feeding collective resolve matters. If Amara's journey helps you see better, pass it along. Let clarity travel. Like and subscribe if you want more stories that flip on the lights and keep them on. Share this episode with someone who still trusts slogans without checking receipts. Let them meet Mapleton's receipts. Let them watch a child teach officers safe faith. In practice is policy. We can listen with more than our ears, the narrator echoed Amara. We can be better if we try. Try isn't passive, it's muscles and calendars and budgets and votes. Thank you for walking this stretch with us, from silence to testimony, from hurt to honest healing. This narrative insists on courage multiplied. When institutions fail the vulnerable, repair requires strategies, and strangers, neighbors, and notes, judges and journalists, pastors and patrol logs. Darius mapped, Nia marched, Amara taught. You can do something too, somewhere, with someone consistently. That's how a city learns. If you're still here, you're part of the work. Subscribe for the next chapter. Share to widen the circle. Comment with local reforms that matter most. oversight with teeth, crisis teams, data transparency, training for disability, checks on power. The story turns when communities do. Zora Neale Hurston wrote that some years ask questions and other years answer. Mapleton asked and answered both. It learned that transparency isn't a threat, it's a promise. It learned that language can be hands. It learned to count differently, not arrests, but people safe. Through darkness, the Coles became builders of policy, of bridges, of rooms that once excluded them. Trauma didn't define them, it refocused them. Darius kissed Amara's forehead. Nia wrapped them both. The camera pulled back, catching ordinary light on extraordinary faces, a family mid-repair. Justice, Darius realized, is not only courtrooms and cuffs, it's playgrounds without sirens. It's teachers with patience. It's officers whose first reflex is to understand. It's budgets that measure safety and flourishing, not throughput. It's leadership that calls harm by name and fixes it. Amara practiced her closing again. We can learn to listen with more than our ears. Her hands curved at language into air, and it stayed. She smiled at her father. He smiled back. The scar glowed faintly. The room felt large enough for all of them now. Have you witnessed similar harm? How did your community respond? What would have made a difference sooner? Tell us below. Real stories refine real solutions. If this episode clarified anything, send it to someone who needs the light. Reform doesn't need permission. It needs participants. Together we can amplify voices long ignored and invest in practices that make dignity ordinary. We can teach, measure, and insist. We can meet fear with skill and bias with design. If Amara's resilience sparked something in you, carry it forward. Be better on purpose. Listen with more than our ears. If you've lived long enough to remember black and white newsreels and church basement meetings, you know safety isn't only sirens and badges, it's understanding. In Mapleton, a 9-year-old black girl, Amara, was shot because silence was treated as defiance. She is deaf. Her hands were her voice. Darius, her father and a federal agent, learned the oldest truth many of us were taught in sanctuaries and VFW halls. When power stops listening, community must speak in chorus and with receipts. The receipts came: body cam footage, text messages, and honest officers like Sergeant Pierce. But the deeper lesson is practical, not poetic. Real safety starts before the next call. Teaching first responders basic ASL, enforcing body cams that actually stay on, tracking use of force like we track blood pressure, and asking city councils for independent oversight with teeth. We've walked 8 blocks to a festival and 8 miles for justice. Both distances count. For those of us with grandchildren and long memories, this story invites a steady kind of courage, showing up at town hall, volunteering to help train, and reminding our neighbors that quiet people still speak. We just have to learn the language. If you were in Darius's shoes today, what is the very first step you would take in your town this week? Call the police chief. Bring ASL teachers to a roll call. Ask your council for an independent review board, or gather neighbors at church to map out concrete reforms. So a child like Amara is safe walking those 8 blocks home. And will you share that one step in the comments? Then like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so more folks, especially seniors and caregivers, get practical tools, real stories, and regular updates to turn concern into action.